Hello everyone, welcome to Testbird MBA Prep. So in this session, we will look into the tones of passages. So what is meant by a tone? A tone generally indicates the mood or the attitude of the author when he talks about the subject of the passage. And the tone is not consistent throughout the passage. So we can have more than one tone in a passage, and it is also more a characteristic of the content of the passage than the writing style. So a passage can have sentences and paragraphs signifying different tones. So now we shall look into various types of tones of passages. The first one is acerbic, that is also known as caustic tone. So what does this mean? If any paragraph or if the entire passage is very harsh about any idea or about something, then we can say that the tone of that passage is acerbic. So acerbic means something that is bitter and very unpleasant and harsh. The second one is angry, that is also known as indignant. So angry and annoyed at something. So if a passage is very annoying, and if the author criticizes something a lot, that can be a clue of an indignant tone in that passage. The next one is apologetic. So apologetic generally means regretful. We usually know that. And most of the RCs on general disasters, on catastrophes, or any past unfortunate incidents will definitely be in this tone, will be in the apologetic tone. And we have one more tone, that is apathetic. Let me write it here. So apathetic means showing no interest. So showing no interest means apathetic tone. So the next one is belligerent or bellicose. So what does this mean? Belligerent means very unfriendly, very aggressive, and warlike atmosphere. See, simply, what's the meaning of the root word bell? The root word bell. Bell refers to war, right? Bell refers to war. So belligerent means a warlike atmosphere, a warlike situation, a very unfriendly, very aggressive situation. What is meant by a biased tone? So bias, as we know, it means showing an unfair tendency to believe that some people or some ideas are better than others. That is, favoring of one person or group or one thing over others for some personal reasons. So whenever in a passage, if the author projects two things but he is very much inclined towards one thing, so in that case we can say that the tone of that RC, that the tone of that para at least, is biased tone. And the next one is commiserating. Commiserating means expressing sympathy or pity, right? So take any passage, if the author tries to show or tries to project pity or sympathy towards something, towards a situation or towards a person, then we can say that that tone is known as commiserating tone. The next one is condescending. So it is just a way of writing that is meant to make other person feel inferior, right? So showing superiority is known as condescending. And what about contemptuous? Contemptuous is also known as derisive tone. So contemptuous means expressing contempt, that is expressing something in a ridiculous way. So we will often find this derisive tones in passages where the author treats the subject in a ridiculous manner. He talks about something in a rude manner, right? And what about cynical? Cynical, of course, a negative tone. So cynical means distrustful The author doesn't have any trust in something, so he projects the passage in a distrustful manner. And what's meant by disparaging? Disparaging means belittling someone. So, whenever you find a passage, and if the author belittles any opinion or belittles a person in that passage or in that paragraph, we can say that the tone of that particular paragraph or passage is a disparaging tone. Dogmatic. So, in this case, the author portrays his opinions in an arrogant manner, right? In not a calm and composed manner. He projects his opinions, his point of views in an arrogant manner. So, the next one is emotional. Emotional tones are very rare. These may not be asked in CAT or any other exam, but for the purpose of learning, we can go through this. So, a passage with emotional words or feelings such as fear, love, hate. So, whenever we find this emotional journey in that passage, we can say that the passage is of emotional tone. The next one is ethical. So, these types of passages deal with the principles of morality, righteousness, or honesty, right? That kind of passages are said to have the ethical tone. And euphemistic tone is the substituting the harsh expressions and words with polite ones, right? So you tell something, you express something indirectly, so you substitute the harsh expressions with the polite ones, but you convey the message indirectly. So if you find out the passage with these characteristics, we can select this tone. The next one is grandiose or the grandiosity. So grandiose tone means the passages that appear more elaborative than necessary, right? Unnecessary elaboration. So when you find the passages that are more elaborative, then you can select the grandiose tone. Humanistic. Whenever we find the passages that have keen interest in nature and the characteristics of the human affairs and the welfare of the people, right? If we find these kind of characteristics in any passage, then we can select the humanistic tone of that particular passage. Humorous. So passages that are funny and amusing are known as the humorous passages, and those passages have the humorous tone. Introspective. Introspective means considering one's own interval state of feelings. And what about incendiary? So incendiary is also known as the provocative tone. So if the author uses the speeches of orators or the leaders to persuade people, so it can be persuading in a negative way or a positive direction. But if the author uses the speeches of orators or some leaders to influence people in a negative or positive direction, that is known as incendiary. And what about laudatory? Laudatory means praising. That tone refers to praising and applauding. So when the author uses this tone, he praises someone or he praises some incident, some situation. So that kind of situation is known as the laudatory situation, laudatory tone. Mocking. Mocking means making fun of something or someone in a rude manner. So this tone refers to the paragraphs or the passages in which the author makes fun of a situation or he makes fun of a particular person in a rude manner. So that's known as mocking tone. And what is a motivating tone? Motivating tone is something that is impelling in a good way, right? That supports in a good way. that encourages you in a good way. So those kind of passages, those kind of paragraphs are known as the motivating paragraphs, the motivating tones. Pedestrian, what is meant by pedestrian? Pedestrian, the author doesn't use any imagination. The entire para or the entire passage flows in a simple way. He presents his ideas without any imagination. He presents in a very simple way. So that is known as a pedestrian tone. What is meant by populist? Whenever the author supports the common people and their viewpoints, then that kind of passage is, that kind of RC is known as a populist tone RC. Provocative. So this is as same as the incendiary. And what about rhetoric? Rhetoric tone is something when you find the passages, when you find that the author is excessively using the exaggeration, then you can say that that passage, the tone of that passage is known as rhetoric. And sarcastic tones. Sarcastic tones are always sharp, cutting expressions. And this is usually the remarks that clearly mean the opposite of what you say in order to hurt someone's feelings, right? So sarcastic tones are like the remarks that clearly mean the opposite of what you say. So this is to hurt the feelings of others. Satirical. So satirical, we know, criticizing people in a humorous way, right? So whenever you find a passage that criticizes specific thoughts or that criticizes some people in a satirical manner, in a humorous manner, then that the tone of that passage is known as satirical tone. What is skeptical? Skeptical is very doubtful, not easily convinced. So any passage, if the author is very doubtful about a particular situation or about a particular idea, then the tone of that passage will be a skeptical tone. Speculative. So in this case, the author uses various theories that do not exist. So we find hypothetical theories, hypothetical opinions that do not exist, right? So that theories and those opinions don't exist. So this kind of passage is known as the speculative tone, right? The tone of these kind of passages is known as speculative. And what about technical tones? When a passage is full of technical terms and full of terminologies to a particular field, the field can be it can be related to chemical engineering, it can be related to management, or it can be related to the biotechnology, etc. So everything will be in a technical terms full of terminology, right? What is meant by vitriolic? Whenever you find the passages which are full of anger, hatred, then the tone of such passages is vitriolic. And the last one is vituperative. What's meant by vituperative? Very bitter and very abusive. The style, the way the author pens up the passage will be in a very abusive manner. So those kind of RCs, those kind of passages have the vituperative tones, right? Just have an idea of all those all these tones that we discussed in this session. Keep revising and keep practicing the RCs. These tones will be sufficient for any exam. Nothing more than these tones are required. So thank you very much, and keep practicing the RCs.